We are learning new details tonight in a Rock County homicide case. A mother is charged with killing her 14-year-old daughter.
Court documents show 41-year-old Thais Oninsky admitted to killing her 14-year-old daughter, Kuren Rein. Chloe Morrissey has you covered on how the case started with a phone call on March 20th.
Court documents show 41-year-old Thais Oninsky admitted to killing her 14-year-old daughter, Kuren Rein. We know this case started with a 13-minute phone call on March 20th. The criminal complaint revealing Oninsky called the Rock County Emergency Dispatch line herself, admitting that she killed her daughter the night before.
It's early morning, March 20th, 2026. A quiet, unremarkable Friday in the small town of Turtle, Rock County, Wisconsin. A dispatcher sitting at her desk at the Rock County Communications Center picks up an incoming call. It's the non-emergency line. On the other end, a woman's voice. Calm. Almost eerily calm. She says she has something to tell them. She says she murdered her daughter. Not that there was an accident. Not that something terrible had happened. She used that word. Murdered. Her own word. And then, as the dispatcher scrambled to process what she was hearing, she asked for help. Not for her daughter. For herself. And when the dispatcher asked if an ambulance should be sent for the girl, the woman on the phone said, "She's dead, honey. She needs a hearse." That call lasted 13 minutes. And by the time it ended, Rock County Sheriff's deputies were already pulling up to a house on East Gorton Street. What they found inside would shake an entire community and eventually make national headlines for a reason nobody could have predicted. Tonight, on Midnight Case Files, we are going into the darkness of one of the most disturbing and heartbreaking stories of 2026, the murder of 14-year-old Kuren Rein, a straight-A student, a freshman, a girl her family described as always bubbly. Gone. At the hands of the one person in the world who is supposed to protect her above all others, her mother. Stay with me, because this story gets stranger and sadder with every single detail. Before we go any further, before we talk about what happened that night, before we talk about the investigation, before we talk about the phone call, I need you to know who Kuren Rein was. Because in stories like this, it's easy for a victim to become a name, a case number, a headline. Kuren deserves more than that. She was 14 years old, a freshman at Beloit Memorial High School, just beginning what should have been 4 of the most memorable years of her life. And, by all accounts, she was thriving. Her uncle, Travis Oninsky, who lived hours away in Wasaki but always made a point to check in on her, spoke to Kuren just days before her death. And you know what she told him about? Her grades. Straight A's. Travis said, and I want you to hear this because it matters. I was proud of Kuren for doing such a good job, for being able to stay focused. I know that was the last time I ever got the chance to speak with her. She was on the 3.5 to 3.99 GPA honor roll in her very first semester of high school. She had a smile that people remembered. Her uncle described her as very sweet, very kind, always bubbly, seemed to always have a smile on her face, happy in just about every situation. A family friend who set up the GoFundMe in the days that followed wrote, "Our hearts are shattered as we share the unimaginable loss of a beautiful 14-year-old life taken far too soon." One of her friend's stepmothers, Amy Sorensen of Beloit, remembered Kuren this way. She said the girl was always fun to be around, always laughing, always giggly, always super friendly and respectful. She said, quietly, just all the things that she's going to miss out on. They'll all hurt. The principal at Beloit Memorial High School, Emily Pels, sent a statement to students that read, "Kuren will be deeply missed, and we extend our heartfelt condolences to her family and friends. This tragedy will affect our school community, and this loss will understandably bring a range of emotions, questions, and concerns." Kuren's aunt, Megan Oninsky, called her kind, intelligent, and said she maintained a contagious optimism even in the darkest of times. That last part, even in the darkest of times, I don't think that was an accident. Because if what we know about this case is any indication, Kuren's home life may not have been easy. Even Melissa Johns, her mother's friend, said, "Ugh, just why? Rest peacefully, beautiful little angel." And yet, she showed up to school. She made the honor roll. She kept smiling. This girl had a future. And someone took it from her. Hey, if you're new to Midnight Case Files, welcome. Hit that subscribe button right now so you never miss a case like this one. And if you've been here for a while, drop a comment below and tell me, have you ever heard of a case this disturbing? Because I promise you, this story is about to get even darker. Now, let's talk about what happened. The killing didn't occur on March 20th, the day the call was made. According to the criminal complaint filed in Rock County Circuit Court, Thais Oninsky stabbed her daughter on the night of March 19th. Think about that. She killed her daughter, and then she waited. She spent the night in that house, with her daughter's body. According to the complaint, after stabbing Kuren, Oninsky then turned the same knife on herself in what she described as a suicide attempt. She told dispatchers she laid down next to her daughter's body. She said she was waiting to die. But she didn't die. So the next morning, March 20th, she picked up the phone. Not to call 911. Not the emergency line. The non-emergency line of the Rock County Communications Center. And she told them what she had done. During that 13-minute call, she told the dispatcher she had used a knife to kill her daughter the night before. She was calm, coherent enough to give details. She told them she needed both an ambulance and a hearse. When asked which was for her daughter, she said, and I'll quote directly from the criminal complaint here, "She's dead, honey. She needs a hearse." And then she told the dispatcher where she had hurt herself. She said it was in the bedroom where I murdered my daughter. She referred to what she did as murder. Unprompted. More than once. Deputies from the Rock County Sheriff's Office responded immediately. They arrived, and based on the length of that call, they were likely pulling up before she even hung up. What they found inside that home on East Gorton Street was devastating. 14-year-old Kuren Rein was found face down in what appeared to be a four-season porch that had been converted into a bedroom. She was lying with her feet toward the door and her arms tucked under her head. Surrounding her was a large amount of blood. The Rock County Medical Examiner later determined the cause of death was deep incised wounds to the right side of Kuren's neck. There were no defensive wounds. Let that sink in for a second. No defensive wounds means Kuren likely did not have a chance to fight back. She may have been asleep. She may have been caught completely off guard by the person she trusted most in her life. Near her body, officers recovered a black pocket knife and an empty leather sheath. As investigators processed the scene, they discovered something else. A partial bare footprint inside the home. They looked at Thais Oninsky's feet. Her left foot was stained with what appeared to be blood. Oninsky herself was found with a deep laceration to her neck, cuts on both her wrists, and what appeared to be a stab wound to her temple. She was alive, but seriously injured. She was transported first to Beloit Memorial Hospital and then transferred to a hospital in Madison for further treatment. The homeowner, described as a grandfather figure to Kuren, was in a separate bedroom. He told officers he had just woken up. He thought Kuren had gone to school. He had no idea. Now here's where this case takes a turn that nobody, not the investigators, not the media, not anyone watching from the outside, could have fully anticipated. When authorities asked Thais Oninsky why she had killed her daughter, she gave an answer. She said,
I murdered her to protect her from somebody else, period. The complaint says she later explained she was protecting her daughter from Elon Musk.
She told law enforcement she stabbed her 14-year-old daughter to death in order to protect her from Elon Musk, billionaire tech executive, CEO of Tesla and SpaceX, one of the most famous people on Earth. According to the criminal complaint, she did not elaborate. She gave no explanation for why she believed Musk posed a threat to Kuren. No details. No context. Nothing. And investigators confirmed there is absolutely no evidence that Elon Musk had any knowledge of this family, any contact with this family, or any role whatsoever in what happened to Kuren Rein. He has not been accused of any wrongdoing in connection with this case. So, what are we dealing with here? Toxicology results from the hospital told part of the story. Oninsky tested positive for 3 substances, benzodiazepines, which are anti-anxiety medications often prescribed for disorders like PTSD or severe anxiety, amphetamines, and THC. That cocktail of drugs, particularly when combined and used outside of medically supervised conditions, can cause severe cognitive distortions, paranoia, delusions, a complete break from reality. And yet, and this is the part that troubles investigators and legal experts alike, she was coherent enough to make that phone call, coherent enough to give her location, coherent enough to use the word murdered. Was this a woman in the grip of a drug-induced psychotic break? Was it something deeper, an untreated mental illness that the drugs may have worsened? Could this have been prevented? Those are questions that will likely play out in a courtroom. And Kuren's aunt seemed to hint at something larger at play when she said in her statement that this tragedy was the devastating ending to a years-long battle amongst family members and the overworked system put in place to protect our children. Years-long battle. Those words carry weight. It raises a question that I think many of you are already asking. Were there warning signs? Was this family in the system? Were there missed opportunities to intervene? We don't have all those answers yet. But that statement from Kuren's aunt suggests that people around the situation, people who love this girl, had been fighting for her for a long time. I want to pause for a second and hear from you. Do you think this is a case of drug-induced psychosis? Or do you think there's more to this story? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. There's so much more to this case. Don't go anywhere. Now, let's talk about what happened after Thais Oninsky arrived at the hospital. Because there is a detail in this case that, when I first read it, stopped me completely. She was being treated for her injuries. She had stab wounds to her neck, her wrists, her temple. She was in serious enough condition to be transferred from Beloit Memorial to a hospital in Madison. And at some point during that time in the hospital, with her daughter dead, with investigators processing a crime scene, with a community about to be shattered, Oninsky turned to a deputy and asked a question. She asked, enthusiastically, according to the criminal complaint, "So, is my name, like, all over the news yet?" And when the deputy told her no, her name was not in the news, she was disappointed, visibly disappointed. I don't say this to speculate about her psychology. That's for experts and a courtroom to determine. But I will say this. That detail, more than almost anything else in this case, will likely be examined closely by prosecutors. Rock County Court Commissioner Jack Hogue referenced it directly when he set Oninsky's bond at $1 million. According to reporting, he cited the violent nature of the crime, Oninsky's behavior prior to and after the killing, and her apparent concern that the murder hadn't received enough media attention, as reasons she posed a significant risk to the community. Her attorney, Matt Lanta, who argues that her bail should be set at $100,000. He mentions her lack of criminal history, her ties to the community, the fact that she's not a flight risk. The prosecutor, Richard J. Sullivan, disagrees. He wants $1 million. Sullivan tells the court,
When we're talking about an unsolicited, unprovoked attack of slitting a 14-year-old girl's neck who happens to be her daughter, that does put the public at risk.
On March 30th, 2026, Thais Oninsky appeared via video for her initial court appearance in Rock County Circuit Court. She was formally charged with first-degree intentional homicide. Under Wisconsin law, that is a Class A felony, the most serious classification, punishable by life in prison. Her next court date is April 14th. She is currently being held on that $1 million cash bond. In the days following Kuren's death, the community of Beloit and the town of Turtle did what communities do in the face of the unimaginable. They came together. A GoFundMe campaign was started by a family friend named Meredith Jacobson to help cover funeral expenses and support Kuren's family, including her older brother, who lost his sister in the most devastating way possible. The campaign's page reads, "We are coming together to support a young man who has just lost his sister in a devastating and unthinkable way at the hands of their own mother. No one should have to face something like this, especially at such a young age. As he navigates this overwhelming grief, we want to ease the burden of funeral expenses so he can focus on healing and remembering his sister." As of this recording, that GoFundMe has raised more than $19,000. And it's worth noting, this is the first homicide in the town of Turtle since 2011. 15 years of peace in a small, quiet community, shattered in a single night. Investigators from the Rock County Sheriff's Office have confirmed the case remains an active investigation. Uncle Travis, the man who got Kuren's last phone call, the last person in her family to hear her voice, to hear her talk about her stray days, said something that I think captures the grief of this entire situation. It kind of makes it seem more difficult and harder to swallow to know that she still had all these options and all these people who love her, and she didn't have a chance to utilize that. All these options. All these people who loved her, and she never got the chance. If this story moved you, if Kuren's story matters to you, hit that subscribe button and share this video. These are the stories that deserve to be told and remembered. And the more people who watch, the more we can keep shining a light on cases like this one. I'll keep bringing them to you every single time.
A mother in Rock County is accused of killing her 14-year-old daughter. Court documents say 41-year-old Thais Oninsky admitted to the murder. According to the criminal complaint, Oninsky said, quote, "I murdered her to protect her from somebody else, period." The complaint says she later explained she was protecting her daughter from Elon Musk.
The risk of harm here is clearly localized to herself and the victim here. There's no evidence that she poses a generalized risk to the community at large.
When we're talking about an unsolicited, unprovoked attack of slitting a 14-year-old girl's neck who happens to be her daughter, that does put the public at risk.
Let me zoom out for a second, because I think this case forces us to confront some uncomfortable questions that go beyond this one family, this one town, this one tragedy. The first question: what does the criminal justice and child welfare system owe to kids like Kuren? Kuren's aunt said this was the devastating ending to a years-long battle between family members and a system that was supposed to protect children. We don't know the specifics of what that battle looked like, but the implication is clear. People around Kuren were aware that something was wrong. People were fighting. And yet, here we are. The second question: what do we do with the intersection of mental illness, drug abuse, and violence? Thais Oninsky tested positive for 3 substances. She made statements that suggest either delusional thinking or a complete break from reality. And yet the legal system now has to determine, was she mentally competent? Was this premeditated? Can intent and illness coexist in a criminal case? These are not easy questions. And they don't have clean answers. The third question, and this one is the hardest, is about the nature of love and danger within families. We are taught from the time we are very young that a mother's love is the safest love, the most unconditional, the most certain. Kuren Rein was killed by the one person in the world who was supposed to be her first protector. There are no words that make that okay. No explanation that softens it. No sentence that makes Kuren Rein any less gone. What we can do, what we must do, is tell her story. Say her name. Remember who she was, not just how she died.
Kuren Rein.
14 years old. Honor roll student. Freshman at Beloit Memorial High School. Always bubbly. Always smiling. Happy in just about every situation. Her family is grieving. Her brother is grieving. Her uncle, who drove hours to check on her even when the distance made it hard, is grieving. And the community of Beloit, Wisconsin, a town that hadn't seen a homicide in 15 years, is grieving too. Here is where things stand as of today. Thais Oninsky, 41, of Beloit, Wisconsin, is charged with first-degree intentional homicide in the death of her daughter, Kuren Rein. She is being held on a $1 million cash bond. Her next court date is April 14, 2026. The Rock County Medical Examiner determined the cause of death was deep incised wounds to the right side of Kuren's neck. No defensive wounds were found. Investigators say there is no evidence that Elon Musk had any knowledge of or connection to this family or this crime. The case is still an active investigation. We will continue to follow this case as it develops. And when there are updates, when there are answers, we will bring them to you right here on Midnight Case Files. For Kuren Rein, who deserved so much more time, who deserved to finish high school, to go to prom, to figure out who she was going to become.
She was 14.
And she was brilliant. And she mattered. This has been Midnight Case Files. If you made it to the end of this video, drop a comment below and tell me what you think about this case. Do you think mental illness will be a factor in the defense? Do you think there were missed warning signs? Let me know. And if you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that button right now. We cover the cases that don't let you look away, because looking away is exactly what the victims never want us to do. I'll see you in the next one.